A cat purr sits at about 25 to 30 Hz. And in 2023, a group took 8 cat larynxes out and found they'd oscillate down there on their own. With no nerve signal and no muscle doing anything, the tissue just does it. Somewhere between that fact and your phone, it turned into cats heal their own bones by purring, and yours too. And there's a whole world of this. 432 Hz, 528, solfeggio, binaural beats, and I don't think the people watching those are wrong. People report real effects from that music, and I'd rather find out which part of it is doing that. It's just not the number, and that's the whole video. I went down the deep rabbit hole and read them. The 7 studies that compared 2 tunings head to head, plus the 1 direct listening experiment I could find. So first, the thing almost nobody says out loud. 432 Hz is a tuning reference, and a tuning reference is a very different object from a sound sitting in the track. It means the A above middle C is set to 432 cycles a second instead of 440. Every other note moves with it, because every other note is defined against that A. So a 432 track is the same music shifted down by about 32 cents, under a third of a semitone. Here's the loop at both. See if you can pick which is which. And there's a tiny bit of arithmetic underneath the folklore that's worth doing. People say C equals 256 proves A equals 432. Run it in an equal temperament and 256 gives you an A of 430.5, not 432. You only get 432 if you use a Pythagorean 27 to 16 for the 6th. Which is a choice. A fine one, but a choice. And it's doing the work that the number is getting credit for. So, has anybody actually asked listeners which one sounds better? Yes, once. Of which I could find. A German lab took a steinway-welte reproducing gland, the kind that plays piano rolls back mechanically, and played 6 historical performances through it, recorded them at 440, returned the whole piano to 442, let it settle 2 weeks and recorded them again. And the rolls were from an era when the standard sat around 432, so the conditions were, if anything, on 432's side. Then 13 listeners ranked them for sound quality. The result? No preference for 432. A slight lean toward 430 on 4 of the 6 pieces. 7 of the 13 leaned 440 overall. 3 leaned 432, 3 had no preference, and the author says plainly their sample is too small for a secure conclusion. Which cuts both ways, and I want to be fair about it. 13 people can't sell it either. This is just the best direct test I could find, and the best one I can find is small. But beyond that experiment, there are 7 journal studies comparing the 2 references directly. All 7 are clinical or exercise studies, so none of them asked anybody which one sounded better. A dental one found no difference in how anxious patients said they felt, and a difference in one saliva measure. A sleep pilot with 12 spinal injury patients and an emergency staff pilot both favored 432 on selected endpoints. And 2 of the better control ones, both randomized, both double-blind, both crossover, both on athletes, came out the other way. 430 beat 432 on sprint times, on jump height, and on how the athletes said they felt. So the overall picture is small samples, different people, different music, different measurements, pointing in different directions, none of it replicated. That just is what an undertested question looks like. No conspiracy in it, and no confirmation either. And here's the part that surprised me most. The story has a paper trail, and it starts much later than you would guess. 440 became the international reference at a London conference in 1939, and the BBC started broadcasting a tuning tone. Before that, pitch was all over the place. German organs have been measured from about 377 to 567. So 432 was never the universal standard that got taken away. There wasn't one to take. The claim that the Nazis picked 430 to harm people traces to a 1988 article in a political magazine, and the Verdi tuning campaign to a petition the following year from the same movement. A historian at the Journal of Popular Music Studies trade both. And the cosmic version, the one about the sun and DNA, comes out of a 1985 book built on Rudolf Steiner's spiritual science. That's its actual lineage, not a lab. And to be clear, I'm not saying this to make anyone feel silly for repeating it. It's a good story, and it's traveled because it is a good story. I'm saying it because knowing where a claim comes from is usually more useful than arguing about it. Binaural beats are slightly different though, and I want to be careful here because the percept is real. Put a slightly different tone in each ear, and you hear a beat at the difference. That needs headphones, and it works best with carriers under about 1 kHz. The question is whether that does anything to you, and the honest answer is that the field disagrees with itself. A systematic review pulled 14 EEG studies. 5 supported the brainwave entrainment idea, 8 contradicted it, 1 was mixed. And 1 direct lab test looked for a matching change in EEG power, heart rate, and skin conductance across 5 different beat frequencies and found none of them. There's also a meta-analysis across 22 studies reporting a modest overall effect on things like cognition and anxiety, so it isn't nothing. So, real percept, contested mechanism, modest and mixed outcome, that is where it sits. And anybody telling you a beat puts you into a named brain state is ahead of the evidence. So, if the number is not the explanation, then what is? And this is the part I would actually use. Tempo. Slow or slowing pacing can move breathing and heart rate in the short term, but there's no magic number. One study found 60 beats a minute went with more vagal modulation only when it was the end of a slowing sequence. Second, and this is the big one, novelty. Abrupt onsets, sudden tempo jumps, irregular timing, they each produce a small orienting response. Take them away, and the responses go away with them. And how much the spectrum moves predicts how aroused people say they feel. 2 spectral measures together accounted for about 65% of the variance in arousal ratings, with loudness controlled. Third, predictable harmony. Unexpected chords measurably raise tension and skin conductance, so simple centers and slow harmonic movement do real work. Here's the demo. Same harmony, same loudness, same length. One version has long envelopes and almost no events. The other has hard onsets and jumps. nothing about the tuning changed between these two. And I'd bet the difference you just heard is bigger than anything in the 432 comparison earlier. The last one is expectation, and it's the most interesting result in the whole pile. A trial successfully raised people's expectation that music would relieve pain. It did not make the music work better. Okay, so here's the producer version. If you want a track to feel settling, you've got 4 levers with evidence behind them. None of them is a magic setting, and a tuning reference is not among them. Slow the pacing, cut the surprises, which means long envelopes, few onsets, and a spectrum that doesn't lurch. Keep the harmony predictable, and be honest about the context you're putting it in. And if you make music at 432 because you like working that way, keep doing it. One guardrail worth knowing: a meta-analysis of 14 randomized experiments in music and stress recovery came out non-significant overall. The feeling people get from this music is real. I just think it's coming from the writing, not from the number. And that's better news, because you control the writing. Every study I quoted in this video is listed in the description with its sample size and its page number, so you can go and disagree with me properly. Thank you for watching.